Hi, everybody. Hopefully, everybody's doing really great. Thank you for tuning in and listening to our interviews with Latina women entrepreneur in Los Angeles. We're so excited today to have Deanna Ductoc, who is the CEO, owner, boss woman, amazing, incredible, extraordinaire of Los Angelitos Bakery. Welcome, Deanna.
Hey everyone. Thank you, Rocio.
We're so excited to get to know you a little bit over the course of the interview and just learn all about your story and how we can continue to support you. Want to just dive right in and start to get to know you and your story and tell us a little bit about who you are and who is Deanna.
Um, so my name is Deanna. I'm one of the owners of Los Angelitos Bakery. But a little bit more about myself. I am one of four siblings. My father is a refugee from Cuba, and my mother born here, some second generation on that side, but my family's from Mexico. I pretty much don't do anything bakery related when it comes to my career. I'm actually a certified athletic trainer. I went to school and got my master's in sports medicine and injury studies. So I'm currently an industrial injury prevention specialist for a company that's been around for about 200 years, treating and servicing what we would call industrial athletes. So a little bit of like physical therapy slash preventative maintenance and education. I actually got into the business, of course, being that it's family owned, when I was 14 years old. So nothing was pretty much handed to me. My parents made sure that I was always working. But to be a little honest, I also, back in those days, um, raised our phone bill when we weren't able to text as much, and it wasn't unlimited, about $500 or $600. So I had to start working to pay that off. So that's why and when it started. And then, of course, I took some time off to focus on school and then start my career. And now I am fully owning, managing, co-owning, I should say, Los Angelitos Bakery while still working full time with my career.
Wow, that's so amazing. And I think so many people that are listening can relate because a lot of folks that are business owners or entrepreneurs are got like dual roles or triple roles, right? They work full time or part time, or they have other multiple businesses too. So that's really amazing that you can just kind of, I will say, balance, which I'm careful with that word balance, right? But that you can do it all. And so we'll learn a little bit more about how you do all of that. But tell us, let's take a little step aside and tell us a little bit about the bakery. So you had to kind of describe it to folks, and I think most people think bakery and might think like bread or cakes, but tell us a little bit about the bakery itself.
Yeah. It is family owned, as I mentioned. Los Angelitos Bakery is located in the city of Huntington Park. We opened up in 1992, but it actually started with my father and my grandfather. So it's third generation owned. And the way it started was my dad used to work at a bakery part time. He worked for the county his entire life. He just retired. And my grandfather actually used to own businesses in Cuba before they arrived in the United States. So my dad started picking up extra shifts, doing things that he could to just support and have a little bit of an extra income. And my mom always tells a story where one Christmas they had no gifts underneath the tree, and my dad had to think of something. Okay, we can't continue doing this. What can I do? And he said, you know what? If I can work at a bakery and I can pretty much open it. So he reached out to my grandpa and asked, hey, do you want to go into business together? And funny story is that they actually both do not bake. So they actually were able to provide uh, jobs for people within the community, bakers, cashiers, etc. And even though my mom was like the first cashier, it definitely grew from there. So we are very well known for our conchas, our pan dulce, which is your Mexican sweetbread, bolillos, our concha bouquets. So a lot of the different stuff that we've been doing with concha lays for graduation season, but also pastries. So we have custom cakes, different type of pastries from cookies, cupcakes, cake pops, you name it, like you would have on a pastry table. We actually are a preferred vendor for some venues and restaurants as well, where they order the cakes from us for weddings, quinceañeras, special events, and we pretty much customize any of it. But if you ever walk into our bakery, you'll see that we also have like a small market where the corner store, convenience store, if you call it, with milk, eggs, tortillas, tostadas, household items, beans, jalapenos, and then even household items like toilet paper, paper towel rolls. I mean, you name it, you walk in, it's kind of like that neighborhood market as well. And what's great about our business, since we've been in business for over 33 years now, is we've had people when they were younger walking in and who knew my grandfather, who's not with
Mhm.
us anymore, but would still come in now. And now they're bringing their kids. So it's been nice to just see that. And actually, some of our employees now that have been with us for more than 10, 15 years have watched me grow up, growing up in
Oh,
the bakery. So it's definitely very the backbone is definitely family and the community
yeah.
here. So we do a lot not only within our business of like selling pastries and pan dulce and making cakes and having that corner store, but just kind of giving back in anything that we can do.
Yeah, and I think part of the multi-generational, like you said, like passed on, it's a family business, passed on kind of in generations. Like it gives you the space to do that, right? To like welcome the neighborhood kids. And that's so awesome. People seeing you grow up, I'm sure from a little girl running around to like now, like co-owning, you said the bakery and having it grow, right? I'm curious about like when they first opened, like, and how you see it now. Like, what is the big difference, or what are some of the growth or changes you've seen over the years?
So from where it was when it first started, I remember we had a cashier and she's unfortunately not with us as well anymore, but she was with us pretty much half of her life, where she dedicated over 24 years. And unfortunately, she got sick and she had passed away. But I just remember it was just her, and then it was just her and her sister. And I would never forget that we would actually have at one point two shifts where it was like one person would be in from the morning and then we would even have time to close to take our lunch because we weren't that busy and then have somebody else at night. And sometimes that would be me opening it up at 6 o'clock. We now open up at 5 a.m. We're open until 9:30 p.m. We
Wow.
currently have over 20 staff members. So from
Wow.
one to two bakers, one to two cashiers to now about five or six bakers. We're looking for one more.
Wow.
From, janitorial to maintenance to decorators, and then of course the cashiers that are in the front end of things, as well as my sister. I have her and actually my mom are involved in helping me with a lot and making the custom cake toppers. So to see that growth has been exciting, and I believe just getting involved with the bakery. Of course, as I mentioned, I was in school. So at the time, my dad, after my grandpa had passed away, it was a lot for him to have a family of four kids, have his wife, and just have his career. And then it got to a point where he just felt like, okay, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to sell it.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what, Dad? At the time, also, I should backtrack. My brother was assisting and like helping, but he was planning on moving at the time. So I said, you know what, Dad? Like, I will help you. Just wait till I graduate. I'm gonna go back to school, get my master's. It'll take me 2 years, and then I can help you with what I can. So what started off as like, okay, I'll do payroll. I'll help with like the back end. I'll help with social media. Ended up turning into this whole other 24/7 job, as I call it. And when I first started, this was back in 2019 when I was like more full time. I believe we had about 10 employees. So it's definitely doubled. The retention of our employees has been better. There's not so much turnover. And being
Yeah.
such a small family owned business, we don't have like all these crazy benefits and health insurance, et cetera. So I do pride myself on how we treat our employees because that's why they stay. And I know we don't offer everything the books that we could yet, but I know that a lot of the reasons why they've been with us is because of how we do things and how we how we handle everything as a team. So there's that aspect, and I believe the biggest growth is just the changes, keeping the culture, but then kind of bringing a modern twist to it, catching the eye of the younger generation. So that's where my like sister comes in. A lot of the millennials, like myself, what do we want to see? So being able to watch that growth and watching it with my dad and like him being able to watch us be on Telemundo, Univision, Un Nuevo Dia. I mean, we got flown out to Sacramento to be awarded as a small business of the year and his excitement from wanting to
Wow.
sell the business to where we are now, it's just really an honor to be able to watch that happen with him still here. And I wish that my grandfather was here, but I know he's watching and I know he's celebrating. So there's definitely been a lot of growth.
My gosh, that's so beautiful. I love how you just kind of shared that and you illustrated that for us and walked us through it, kind of the steps it's taken. But it's such a huge accomplishment. And the wonderful thing is that all like your family members are contributing their gifts and talents and their insights, and everybody's kind of takes ownership of it, it sounds like. Like everybody cares, like genuinely cares about the people, about the business growth and everything. And that makes a huge difference because there's a lot going on right now, as we know, and I think we need each other, and we and family and community and all of that. Just we need each other more. So that's really beautiful. That's so exciting. So I'm going to take a step back because you did mention kind of a little bit ago on when you were little and how you were like I had to pay the phone bill off and there was a lot going on there and like it's blossomed into who you are today and what you're doing with the bakery specifically today. But well, tell us a little bit about how you grew up, like your background, like who was little Deanna, like who was a little girl running around that blossomed into this beautiful, amazing boss woman that you are today, and how that kind of relates back to your entrepreneurial journey.
Who am I? I'm a daddy's girl. So that's probably why. So I watched him kind of juggle everything and do it. I'm like, oh, he can do it. I can do it. But I was definitely in sports. I mean, anything that I could do, I was doing. Whether it's gymnastics, karate. I was a softball player for up until high school, even through college, and then I played basketball, volleyball. I mean, anything you name it, I was being a part of. So I was definitely busy. And going back into like my parents struggling and making ends meet and working the full time for the county and having the business, they never missed a game. They never missed practices. I mean, I can always count on my dad being there or my mom being there or both of them. So I was definitely very involved in a lot of sports, definitely busy. But that was just something that my parents always wanted to make sure that we did was try everything and see if you like it. And if you don't, try something else, because you're going to find it. And you don't know till you try it. So yeah, so I grew up in the city of Huntington Park up until I was about 8 or 9 years old, and then we moved over to the city of Alhambra, where I spent most of my life there. And then I went to high school, Ramona Convent, graduated from there, went to Pasadena City College for about 2 years, and I. Back in those days, everybody was going to UC this and private school that, and I boohooed. I was like, "No, I don't know. What am I going to do?" I had no idea what my career was going to be and fell in love, of course, back with the sports. I mean, I knew what I was good at. I knew what I loved, and it was softball. And I got introduced to the athletic trainer at the time. But I was definitely that active little girl, up until that college time. But yeah, I mean, I love spending time with my family, always with my cousins. There was a lot of us. And then, like I said, I'm one of four. So I have my older brother, younger brother, and my little sister. Um, but yeah, so they had me in the bakery a lot. I just, like I said, I remember my dad delivering. I remember he would bring home bags of bread and be like, okay, we're trying this time. What do you guys think about this? And it sounds random, but my dad would always come home with a gallon of milk. Like, that was just like those are just the memories I would have. And then it's like, from the good times and the bads where he would go deliver and I knew he would come back, his arm scraped because he fell. And it's just like,
Oh,
oh, like what's really going on over there?
yeah.
um, and fortunately, I was able to be introduced to a lot of family back in Cuba and Mexico, where I was able to, travel and to meet them and really be more in tune with my culture. And, um, you know, I feel like a lot of times we lose sight of it, especially if it isn't practiced as much. And being more second generation on my mom's side, um, grasping that and holding on to that, going to my grandparents' house, speaking both languages, and staying true to both. So I definitely will say the bakery helped me keep. I tell people I'm not 100% Spanish speaker, but I definitely can talk to you anything about bakery in Spanish, and we will be great. But yeah, so that's pretty much like where how I grew up, where I grew up, and what I was around.
Yeah, and I think all of that shaped, I mean, obviously all of our experiences shape who we are, and just seeing how active you were and how engaged you were and really how supportive too your parents and your family were, right? I think all of that you've brought and you continue to bring that into your, I'm sure your everyday work, but also in the business and kind of how you approach things or how you handle things. And did you ever think as a little girl, like standing in the bakery, like one day I'd like to own this place? Like, did that ever cross your mind?
No. I think with any family business, a lot they're like, "I don't wanna work there," like, especially when it's kind of expected from you.
Yeah.
What I can say is I'm very happy and appreciative that my parents allowed me and my siblings to do what we wanted to do and focus on the career, and they weren't behind us, "You need to work at the bakery." It was more like, "Oh, well, you need to pay back that phone bill, so start working."
Yeah.
But to be honest, and I share this story with everyone, no, I never looked at it like, this is what I wanted to do because I don't bake. You know, I can barely cook. So for me, it was just like my purpose was to continue my grandfather and my father's legacy. What they started, I didn't want to see it close. I didn't want to see them give up on a dream that made them happy. I remember my grandfather and the stories everybody would tell me, he would be in the bakery 24/7, literally, like sleep there, eat there, wouldn't come home to the point where they had to force him to come home because he wanted to keep the doors open at all times starting off. And I just told myself, there's no way I can let that close, you know? So when my dad came to us and said, I think I'm going to sell the business, that's when it started. That's when I was like, no, I got you. I will help you. And still in that moment, it wasn't even like a thought in my mind, okay, this is going to be mine. I need to treat it like my baby. It wasn't until I got involved and I found a new purpose. And to be a little bit more personal at the time, in 2017, my ex at the time had passed away unexpectedly. And
Oh,
I got into the program for my master's and I graduated. This is the time my dad said he was going to sell it. And I was like, you know what? I'm working full time. I need something else to do now that school's over. So I just devoted so much time into the business that it became what it was. And like I said, the purpose brought itself to me without me looking for it. And
yeah.
every little thing that I did, I said, okay, what would I do in the name of my ex at the time? Because he was very community driven. He was very much about giving back to children. And it was actually at the time that Kobe Bryant had passed away. And that was his idol. He was a basketball player. He loved Kobe Bryant. I said, okay, I want to do something that honors him. And when we did that, that's what blew up. It was the Kobe Conchas that we started off with to honor Kobe in the city of LA, in the heritage and the culture of, his wife. And I believe just because he was so in tune with all of the LA community and especially Latinos, it
Yeah.
brought out a lot of fans or a lot of people that supported and honored him. So we decided to donate those proceeds to the Mamba on Three Fund. And when we did that, I mean, it just took us to a different level where we were recognized by different platforms, different just radio stations, news outlets, and that's pretty much what gave us that next step and gave us that platform to utilize and really take that and now put Huntington Park on the map and put a small city of in Sella on the map and show, hey, it's not bad over here. You know, come on down. Join and be a part of the celebration. And it just became okay. Wow, I saw all that traction and what we can do and the movement we can make, and hopefully influence others to do the same, that it became something else after and then something else after. So we just started coming out with different ideas on, hey, the community is what kept us open for X amount of years. Let's start giving back. And like I said, it just started there and it's just been snowballing ever since. And it's been a great journey.
And you know what I love about that story too is, or that experience, is that you did it very genuinely. Like it wasn't to, like what can we do to make more money or what can we do to like gain popularity, right? It's like what can we do that honors this person and why? And like really remembering that it gets at the root of like culture and community. And it was born out of that you did this and people I know people picked up on that, I think there's a lot of businesses out there and that's great that they focus so much on their marketing or making the profit and the money and you're a business that should be part of the equation, but the fact that something like this was born out of more of care and authenticity and that it blossomed and bloomed into something that did. It elevated your business and again, like you said, your role in the community and but it happened so organically, you know? I think that's what's really beautiful about your story and about small businesses in general. So you see a lot of that heart and purpose, at the core of what everybody does. So that's really cool. I did not know that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and it's bringing
Thank
back
you.
memories.
I will say my dad on the business side, I always say he's old school and you can take that for what it is. That's a whole other conversation. But he came to me when we're gonna donate the proceeds and he's like, huh? How much? Okay, what's the percentage? And then would you say labor costs? And I'm like, I don't know, like whatever we make, we're gonna donate, and he was very much the back end of like, how much is this gonna cost us? So do we know the percentage and that? So every little thing that I did, I just okay. Now I text the family group chat. I'm like, what do you guys think about this? Like during the
Yeah.
pandemic, we gave free bread to the children, or we donated a laptop to a high school student in HP high
Oh,
school. And the same thing, he's like, okay, how much? He's like, break it down first. It's not just
yeah,
about give, because we also have
yeah,
to be able to do it within our means. And
of
that's where
course.
he reminded me, because I was just like, oh, well, we got it, right? We can do it.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's just how you said it happens organically, but definitely my dad brought me back down like, okay, can we afford it? What are we doing? What are we talking about? How much is this going to be? So it was
yeah.
definitely still the business aspect of it because he had to remind me.
Yeah, and I think that's, it goes back to that. I can't think of a better word right now, but like balance, because of course, business sense, you still need to make sure you pay your people and you turn the lights on and you make a profit because you're a business, right? um, and how that kind of goes hand in hand with like your social movement and what you want to do for community. The why of
Mhm.
that comes across as very genuine and very organic, and I think that the back end and the background, things that need to happen, have to happen, of course, and do happen. It sounds like, but it also sounds like there's a good balance of
Yeah.
like working with your dad on that side and you have to ground each other really. I feel like owners and co-owners and partnerships. I feel like that's one of the benefits and the advantages is that like, people have different approaches to things and different ideas of things. And like, it's when you come together and those kind of mesh that you're like, okay, this is the secret sauce, como dicen, like this is the magic right here happening. So that's really awesome. So what do I know you talked already about kind of like the concept of the business and how it started and, family run. What continues, what inspires you, who inspires you, and what continues to inspire you to keep going, like to keep pushing forward with this?
Um, my biggest inspiration starting off, of course, is my father. I always say that because he was such a hard worker. But if I take that away, because that's kind of an obvious, it's going to be my employees and the community. My employees depend on us. If the business does well, if they do well, the business does well, we are able to pay them. They're able to put food on the table. We know that they're pretty much 90% of them, we're their only source of income. So, being knowing that, that's pretty much what motivates me. We can't close. What are you talking about, COVID? What are you talking about? There's a curfew. Like, no, what are we supposed to do? We need people, to work so that they can get paid, so that they can go home and do what they need to do to support their family. So definitely that's what drives me. A lot is my employees. I want to be able to keep giving and giving and giving. And maybe that's why there's not a lot of turnover because I don't let people go either, which is, there's that balance. Like you said, there's definitely that part. But figuring out a way, how do we continue to grow so that we can be able to provide? I want to continue to provide these jobs. I want to be able to provide these opportunities. And I can't do that if we're not marketing well, if we're not
Mhm.
going out there networking, if we're not doing pop ups, if we're not bringing new foot traffic or more foot traffic, if we're not training them on customer service or how to handle situations, or we're not putting out our best products. It starts with the kitchen and not just the front end and the cashier. So that's pretty much what motivates me going in. Okay, what are the processes? What are the procedures? What's the structure here? That way, when the wheel turns, there's no glitch, and we'll keep bringing in that income in a sense to be able to grow and then provide more hours. Or when they come to me and say, hey, my son wants a job, do you have anything here? I'm like, you know what, we actually do. And it's not, oh my gosh, we are barely making ends meet. So that's what motivates me. I want to continue that. I want to continue growing to be able to, like I said, we've had some of them with us more than 15 years, two cashiers more than 15 years, another baker and another baker's helper that's been with us over 20 years. So it's like, why do they stay? How do we continue giving to them? And um, the second piece, like I noted, is the community. Like I always say, our doors cannot be open without them at all. Like if everybody stopped coming in, there is no Los Angelitos Bakery. If our cashier stopped showing up to work, there is no Los Angelitos Bakery. It could be me, my dad, my mom, my sister, my siblings, but we can't do it on our own. And that's honestly what keeps me going, because it's like, because of you guys waking up, being here at 5 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning for some of our bakers, our doors are open. My grandfather's legacy continues. I can do whatever I want, Zoom meetings and network this and events, but if I don't do it right and we're not growing together, then there's no purpose. So those are my motivations, 1,000%, because without both of those, our employees in the community, we can't do it.
Yeah, I love that. And what would you say is like the core mission and purpose of Los Angelitos Bakery? Is it
Um, Definitely the core period is family, but the mission and purpose is to make it feel like home. And I know a lot of times, even though we've been in business for over 30 years, and I go to a lot of courses, and I've done the Bay Entrepreneur, like Emprendedores program, and everybody tells you have a mission, have a purpose. And I'm going to tell you now, we don't have something written out, but we do know in our heart what it is. And honestly, it's keeping the culture and adding like that little twist to it, bringing you back a sense of home. Like a lot of people can't go back home. They can't go get their traditional pan dulces. So we have a lot of traditional recipes that we keep in house, and I don't touch them. I don't change that. I just change the color, or I change the way we present it and the content, but I do not touch the recipe at all. So keeping that, and staying true to culture and representation, and celebrating. So making it sure when you come in, you feel welcomed, you feel accepted, you feel celebrated, you feel like it's part of you. And we do that, with our pan dulce. We do it with pride conchas. We do it with we call them Mexicochas, like the Mexican flag conchas. So we do it for anything that we can. We try to represent. So that's pretty much, like I said, I don't have like that 2 sentence mission and this is our vision, but I definitely know how to explain it. And I think we show it with everything that we do.
Yeah, and that's what matters. I think people need to feel it, as long as everybody kind of embraces whatever that purpose or mission is. I think it's the feeling people get when they taste your food or when they walk in the door, like you said, right? I think that's what pulls up people's emotional heartstrings is really what matters. And if it's a feel good piece of home, nostalgia even, right? Like I think a lot of us grew up eating conchitas, like a very basic pan dulce that, bakeries sell, but it's that comfort, like the conchita. There's all these other great ones too, of course. Like I love bread, but but even
Oh
just the
yeah.
conchitas, coming to those and the smell, you walk in. I mean, there's so much that kind of makes the business what it is, right? And I think you said it very beautifully. So thank you for sharing that with us. Kind of going back on like your specific journey as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, like what struggles did you face that you feel comfortable sharing? Obviously, kind of in this journey to become, because we know you kind of grew up in the business and it's been a part of you for so long, but kind of maybe the transition, speaking to the transition of like becoming that co-owner and having more of that responsibility, really. How was that for you? What were some of those challenges?
So the first thing that comes to mind, and I laugh because it's like, okay, still sometimes challenging, is a lot, like I mentioned, some of these employees have been here for over 10, 15 years, and they were basically under or working for my dad in a sense, right? So my dad was telling them, okay, these are your hours, this is your schedule, this is how things are gonna go. So the little girl that they watched grow up coming in, and now these are your hours, this is your schedule, this is what I'm gonna these are your responsibilities, these are my expectations from you. It was kind of, especially, and I will be frank with this, is our bakers, especially being a Latina coming in, and it's like, wait, you're gonna tell me what to do? You're gonna tell me? Wait. And so they would, instead of talking to me, they'll kind of go to my dad and be like, hey, is this what we're gonna do
Mm,
now?
yeah.
And I remember I had to have a meeting and I asked my dad, I said, Dad, can you be there? I need you to be there and make sure that everybody knows that going forward, what I say or what I'm changing or what I'm
Mhm,
doing, we need to be all on board with. So he was there and I felt a little embarrassed. I'm like, is this how it's always going to be? It can't.
mhm,
It can't. I need to be able to do this on my own. So I started having more meetings and I would do it on my own. I do it by myself. Not because I didn't want him there as support, but I just didn't want them to see, oh, she can't do it without him. So that was my biggest challenge is, hey, I know we do the traditional conchitas, white, yellow, chilindrina, pink, brown, but now we're going to do red and we're going to add rose stamps. And there's a certain way you can't let them inflate or rise too much. And we need to make sure that they're perfect and we need to be able that they fit in a bag. And so bakers that traditionally for 40 years have just done everything fast paced and just
mhm,
efficient, it's like, no, now I want you to take an hour and make sure that this order is perfect and correct of, whatever amount of conchitas. So that was probably my biggest challenge would be with my male bakers. Um, Even I remember when I hired, they needed another baker, and I said, okay, I'll hire somebody. And I hired our first female baker ever.
oh, wow.
And that was about 5 or 6 years ago. And I remember the head baker at the time, he looked at me, he's like, I don't want to teach her. I'm like, I don't care. You're going to teach her. You have to. I can't continue to keep finding somebody that has 30 years of experience. No, like, here we go. Here's somebody that knows something about bread, has made sourdough bread, never pan dulce. And I said, we're going to teach her. And she's been with us for 6 years now, and she does great,
Wow,
you know?
that's
So
amazing.
I definitely came in and challenged them. And I think sometimes they looked at me like, oh my gosh, Deanna, what's your next crazy idea? But when they saw the impact that it had, and
Yeah.
they saw, oh wow, now instead of two bakers, I have help, we have three, now we have four, or even them having their family seeing them on TV, on these news outlets. And it's like, they were just so proud of it. It's like, oh, okay, now I see the impact that it has. Granted, I didn't know that going into it. Like I said, I was just daddy's girl, like, Dad, can you help me? Like, I don't know how to say this, or I don't know if they're going to listen to me. But I had to be confident in myself, and confident in why I'm making these changes and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it's okay if I fail or if we all fail in this idea, but we're going to try something else. Let's try something else. And I wasn't afraid anymore. And that confidence just built through the years.
Yeah.
Um, but that has been and it still sometimes continues to be a challenge.
Yeah.
Um, but it's progressed so well over the last couple of years.
That's so awesome. That's great. And yeah, I mean, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that. And, I think in a lot of industries, we've heard that women speak to that, right? Whether it's like construction field or, different non-traditional, we'll say, spaces that women have been in the past is
Right.
it's hard sometimes for that transition or to speak up, speak out, and maybe not even the speaking up part, but the like what's received on the other end is the battle, right? That's kind of the hard thing. So thank you for sharing that and for having the courage to keep pushing forward because that's how you innovate. That's how you keep growing, right? You got to take a little bit of risk, as they say, calculated risks, but you got to take some every now and then. So, and so what advice would you give to young or maybe not so young, but new to entrepreneurship, new to business, women that are either thinking about starting their business or maybe are just starting out? Like what's that kind of advice or what would you tell them as they're starting out?
I honestly give the same advice all the time because I think it's so important. And it's been one of those things. Okay, if anybody ever asked me this, like, this is literally the same answer. Don't wait for everything to be perfect to get started.
Mhm.
Don't wait. Yeah, you can keep planning and planning. You might see something you want to change, and it's like, oh, well, no, not yet. It's not perfect yet. No, just do it. And the best example I give is like any app that we've seen, right? We can talk about Instagram, right? Social media platforms. Everything has changed over the years to adapt to the clients and what's being asked of or what's popular at the time. So if we keep trying to make everything perfect, and I'm one guilty of it, it's never going to start or you're never going to get to it. It's like, okay, well, by next week, I'm going to give myself that deadline. It's like, but there's always going to be something that changes. So
Yeah.
don't wait till it's perfect. Just get to it, start it, put it out there, be confident in your idea. It's okay if it doesn't work out, figure something else out. At least you started. and then always ask for help. I started off by trying to do everything by myself. I was so overwhelmed to the point where I was like, I don't know how long I can do this. I took a little bit of a week off and I was just like, I'm just gonna detach myself. I don't know what I got myself into, but it was because I wasn't asking for help. So use your resources, ask for help. There's so much out there. Continue to learn. I think that never stops.
Yeah.
So those will be the three. Don't wait till it's perfect. Ask for help and continue to learn.
Yeah, I love that. That's great advice, and I think it applies whether you're thinking about a business, you're just starting out, or you're well into your business. Because sometimes we got to take that step back and be like, okay, wait a minute, let me remind myself, right, of these things. So key, so critical. Thank you so much. I'm going to ask a question that I didn't send ahead of time, but I'm curious with everything you've been sharing, like, what do you want your legacy to be as Deanna, part of this family run, multi generational business? Like, what would you love your legacy to be?
Honestly, to just leave an imprint, even if it's on one person's life, if I made a change, if I made you or if I influenced you to give back, if I influenced you as a small business to be part of that front line of positive change, um, that's pretty much what legacy I would want, just to know, okay, she always showed up and I'm going to follow that, or she always found a way and I'm going to do that. Um, like currently, I'm on the board for Latino Equality Alliance that support LGBTQ plus youth, and I got into it because we started the Pride Conchas and the scholarship committee. And my main purpose was, you know what? I wish we had this resource when my brother came out, and that's why I do it. And if I can show that, if I can do that within my own community in my own home, it's like, okay, she's showing us that you can juggle all these things. And even if it's not just that, I remember Deanna who came into my life, or I got this scholarship, and I remember Deanna was sitting with me at the reception ceremony, and we had this discussion. Whatever imprint, as long as it's positive, that's pretty much the legacy I want to leave. The bakery can be gone tomorrow.
Mhm.
Everybody's gonna forget it, but they won't forget how you talked to them, how you made them feel, what you did for them, and how you helped them, whether it's through words or actions. And that's pretty much, you know what, if I have the platform to use the bakery in a positive way for the community, then let me do it. So that's pretty much all I can ask for.
That's beautiful. I love the intersectionality of kind of like the social change and advocacy and just because there's ways to tie it in, and you do it right. You're showing us, you've been telling us about this throughout this conversation is, it doesn't have to be separate, right? It doesn't have to be like this is a bakery and we're family run and we sell baked goods, and then this is separate from like kind of these social issues that we're addressing and that we care about, right? Like there's a way to bring that together and to create kind of the more of that transformational change we want to see and continue to just be a presence and a constant in our communities. So I think that your story exemplifies that. I feel it very strongly, and kind of what you care about and how that kind of goes in through your business. It comes out, through it shines out through you. So thank you for sharing that, inspiring us all. I know I'm not alone. Everybody listening is gonna feel super inspired by you and your story and your honesty. But kind of as we just wrap up our conversation, any kind of final words of wisdom that you want to share? Maybe something we didn't get a chance to kind of chat about throughout the questions, but something that you want to leave the audience with, and could include a little what do they call it? Little plug as well if you'd like. But
The only plug I'll say is graduation's coming up. If you're watching it during graduation season, we have our concholes. Um, But I will say the biggest thing is take care of yourself. Always have work-life balance. Family owned, your own business, etc. I've been in a lot of cohorts programs. I've met a lot of amazing entrepreneurs, men and women, and we need to make sure we value ourselves because we can't show up for our business if we're not taking care of ourselves. So that's going to be the biggest takeaway because I definitely live by it. I travel, I take care of myself. I spend time with my nephew and my godsons and do what's best for me to take care of me.
Yeah.
so that I can continue to show up because it does. You could get overwhelmed. You could get burnt out. We've all been there. I think
Yeah.
we've put too much on our plate. So it's okay to work hard. It's okay to show up all the time for your business, but you can't do it if you're not taking care of yourself.
Mm. Yeah, so true. I love that. That's key. Key. Always take care of yourself. You can't do anything if you don't take care of yourself. So, Deanna, thank you so much. This time has been so precious. I've learned so much about you. And again, thank you for sharing your story, your wisdom, your experience, your love of community with all of us. And we want to encourage all of you listening, make sure that you support Deanna and her family business, Los Angelitos Bakery. But this also serves as a call to action for folks to continue to just do good for community. Like Deanna said, it's being a part of a board. Maybe it's finding a scholarship, donating, a need to a school. Like I feel like this was also a call to action for that. So thank you for that, Deanna. And we hope we see all of you at our next interview or one of our events. And with that, we'll close out the interview. Gracias. And thank you, Deanna.
Thank you.